Passive voice. If you've ever written a paper, it's safe to say you've been criticized about the use of it in your writing. You've tried to avoid making this writing faux pas, nixing the use of words like have or been, and getting rid of all verbs ending in et. But throughout all this, the question still remained. What exactly is passive voice? In the simplest terms possible, passive voice is when you make the object receiving the action into the subject of a sentence. A typical passive voice construction is made up of a form of to be paired with a participle. Now that we've got the basics down, let's take a look at this passive voice example. A pink bow was worn by Felicia. In this sentence, Felicia is the one performing the action. However, bow, the object receiving the action, becomes the subject. To make the sentence active, one would say, Felicia wore a pink bow. Now let's say bye-bye to Felicia and move on. It's common knowledge that if you're using first-person point of view, then you can't be using passive voice, right? Wrong. Take a look at this sentence. I was sent spam by Tom. This is where the passive voice can get a little tricky. While at first glance, this sentence may appear to be right, you are not the one who sent the spam. You are the receiver of the action. To phrase this in the active voice, you would say, Tom sent me spam. Got it? Let's try another example. Cereal is being spit out. Right off the bat, do you notice any differences in this example? The first thing that might stand out to you is that the person performing the action has been completely left out. This is what usually happens when people state things in the passive voice. Because of this tendency, passive voice is generally looked down upon in formal writing. To state this in the active voice, you would say, Jim is spitting out the cereal. Have you caught on to the second difference in this example? These sentences have been stated in the present tense. Many people think that the passive voice only happens when talking about the past, but the passive voice can be used in any tense. A future tense example would be, the cereal will have been spit out by noon, while the active voice construction would be, Jim will have spit out the cereal by noon. Fun, right? Now, after telling you about all of the ways to correct and eliminate the use of passive voice in your writing, I'm going to debunk a pretty big myth. Using passive voice is grammatically correct. I know what you're thinking. Wait, what? Passive voice is a stylistic choice. So why have you been so highly criticized for this? Well, the answer is simple. As the previous example demonstrated, clarity can be greatly affected by the use of passive voice, which is why teachers and professors encourage students not to use it. However, it can be beneficial in other contexts. Passive voice can and should be used in instances when you want to be vague or polite, making broad generalizations, writing in scientific contexts, or you want to focus on the object. Let's go through some examples. While the use of active voice may be encouraged in writing, it might not work out so well in social contexts. If you want to say something kinda harsh, but want to soften the blow, you might choose to say it in the passive voice. In the active voice, you could say, Amy made mistakes. However, you won't be winning any points with Amy. Saying mistakes have been made, then pointedly glancing at Amy, is a way to show displeasure without directly calling someone out. Sometimes you might want to make a broad generalization. In that case, the actions being carried out aren't caused by anyone in particular. The saying, rules were made to be broken, is a great example of this. Who made the rules is irrelevant. Your focus is on the rules in general. Traditionally, things pertaining to scientific works are written in the passive voice. This is most notable in the materials and methods section. If you were to write, first the light bulbs were tested for electrical currents in a research paper, it can be assumed that the person reading the lab report knows you are the one performing the testing. Writing in first-person point of view and in active voice would not only be unnecessary, but may also come off as unprofessional. Let's try this one. If you're writing paper on eyewear throughout the ages, you may want the subject of the sentence to be the object. A sentence like, sunglasses were introduced to the US in 1929 would be completely acceptable, even though the person doing the introducing isn't mentioned. Well, there you have it. You're now master of passive voice and know all the rules for when you should and shouldn't use it. Not bad, right?